Oh, what's up, Camille abusers? It's the Jizz, and there are some of us, right, who don't like playing the standard pick ban champions, simply because you're not always going to be able to play them. So instead, playing champions that are almost as broken, but picked and banned nowhere near as much sounds a bit more red hot. So that's what we're doing in today's video. The Jizz will be revealing the 15 most underrated champions of the soon-to-hit 11.24 patch. And what do you think? Is there a champion that you play that you think is really OP, but no one else is playing? In before all the ASOL mains come flying in. And yeah, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, well, make sure you do so you don't miss out on the best preseason content on the web, and let's get into it. Now, starting off the countdown, coming in at number 15. This is Samira, and for Samira in 11.24, it's going to be a big one because you are getting direct buffed, because your ultimate is no longer going to cost mana. Yes, you heard that right. No mana for using your ultimate. How good is that? That means that in your runes, you don't have to go Presence of Mind, so now you can choose a rune that's going to enhance your fighting, and because Conqueror, the keystone, the actual stacking itself, these stacks are going to last 5 seconds, not 4 seconds. So when you just have 2 points in your Q, you can actually just keep Conqueror stacking by using your Q on your opponents. So these two buffs are so nice for Samira, and thankfully because Samira is banned nowhere near as much as she used to be, even though she's getting buffed for next patch, people are still going to be picking Caitlyn, Vayne, Ezreal, all these other champions. Samira is most of the time going to be open, so make sure you lock her in. Now, beating Samira to number 14, this is Kayn, and in particular, Red Kayn, so the darkened version. Now, the reason why Kayn is on this countdown, just like Samira, Conqueror is getting buffed, so the stacking is going to last a little longer, and for a jungler like Kayn, who loves extended trades, keeping that Conqueror going in those team fights and skirmishes, it's going to be impossible to lose the stacks, and for Ras, because his scaling is just so good, you are going to become the unkillable Demon King in the mid to late game. And it's also really nice for Kayn at the moment, because Scuttle crabs mean a lot less, and because your early game is pretty weak, until you get your form, you can just full clear, hit level 4, and you're sweet. Just remember though to protect your other side of the jungle in the early game, because you don't really want to lose 3 cans for free. So put a ward down outside your red or blue buff, whatever buff you're not doing, and you secure yourself level 4 and hopefully just free scaling into that game. Now, one champion who really doesn't get talked about enough is coming in at number 13, and this is Neeko. So I know you can play Neeko in the mid lane or as a support, but I'm telling you guys, Neeko in the top lane, because you're a ranged champion, is just so free. With Everfrost as your mythic item, because it's now 400 gold cheaper from the 11.23 buff, and this isn't changing, really nice. And then by rushing Nash's Tooth, and because Neeko has on-hit in her kit because of her shape splitter, it works so well with Nash's Tooth and just makes you such an annoying champion to play against. Like, the enemy top laner really needs jungle help, especially if they're a close range champion, just to deal with you, so Neeko is a super underrated pick and something you should definitely consider playing for 11.24. But beating her to number 12 is another top laner. This is Singed, but you might be like, Jizz, Predator is getting nerfed, how can you put Singed here? So Predator is getting nerfed for sure. You're losing movement speed, and the movement speed is actually going to take a bit more time to rack up. But here's the thing, Conqueror, 5 seconds. Think about Singe's poison. This lasts 5 seconds. So if you can keep that enemy champion locked in your poison trail, your Conqueror is just going to stack for you. This is what it used to be, but ever since Riot nerfed Conqueror, so it only lasts 4 seconds for a stack, it's really not that preferable on Singe. Now it is back in the game. And for Singe, even though he's good at the moment, this is the keystone you can actually replace the nerf Predator with, and this is why he has to be on the underrated countdown. But perhaps a champion more underrated than Singe. This is Senna coming in at number 11, and for Senna with Fleet Footwork as your keystone, this is one of the most annoying supports to go against. And if we think about what's actually going to be good in the AD carry department for 11.24, well, because Lethal Tempo is buffed for ranged champions, Senna, who can maybe pair with a strong laner like Ashe or Caitlyn. Think about how frustrating that is going to be to play against. Perma poke, perma harass, perma shoving in waves. If you don't get your jungler to gank for you, you are going to get rolled. And if we also think about Evershroud getting nerfed, so maybe champions like Blitzcrank, Kamumu, Leona, Nautilus, who might be scary for support center, think about it. This item's getting nerfed, so you've probably got more chance of surviving. And just because Fleet Footwork AD carries are going to be flavor of the 11.24 patch, center as a support, the synergy, the poke, it's going to be too much to deal with. Now, starting off the top 10 here, we're going to head to the mid lane, guys, and talk about Pantheon. And the reason I really like Pantheon for the 11.24 patch is because Conqueror is getting buffed, so you are just going to be more of a force, and when you're split pushing and skirmishing, when you're actually stacking the Conqueror through your auto attacks and abilities, this just makes you a lot harder to deal with. Now, just one thing on Pantheon, I'd really pick him against short range champions in the mid lane. So if you see Akali, Zed, Yasuo, Yone, any melee champion in particular, you are an amazing counter, all because of that shield vault. The burst damage you deal is ridiculous, and none of these champions can get close to you because of that potential, which is even better next patch because Conqueror, the stacking is going to last longer. But head to Pantheon, we are going to head back to the bot lane here, guys, and talk about a Mumu support who does not get talked about enough, even though a Mumu has been nerfed, or he got nerfed towards the end of season 11. To be honest, he's still really good because you get 2 charges of your Q off. Now, this might cost a lot more mana than before, but here's the thing, guys. guys, you land one of these onto a support like Sona, Soraka, Lulu, Nami. These are really popular at the moment because that's really the bot lane meta. Well, you counter all of these. I said in yesterday's top 15 champions video that Blitzcrank, because of his pull, is such a good counter to these mobile range damage dealers, including supports. A Mumu, you land one bandage toss onto them because they are naturally so squishy anyway, you are going to be able to kill them. Now, it does kind of suck that Evan Shroud, your teammate, when you actually land your bandage toss or land your Curse of the Sad Mummy, that enemy champion is going to take less damage from your AD carry and your teammates. But just because of your chain CC, it doesn't even really matter if your teammates lost even more damage. That enemy champion, because of your amazing lockdown potential, is going to be locked in place for a long period of time, or in other words, long enough for them to die regardless of the damage amplification. So Mumu comes in at number 9. Now, beating him to number 8 is Kog'Maw, but not AD carry Kog'Maw. I'm talking about mid lane Kog'Maw. And you might be like, how on earth is that legit? Well, it's always been kind of a niche thing, but I really like it because ever since Voidoo's got a buff to the AP ratio back in 11-18, so in season 11, well, this kind of flew under the radar. And at the moment, Kog'Maw in the mid lane in high reloads has actually a plus 50% win rate, and because Archangel's staff, which secures all your mana issues, is getting buffed, so it's going to cost 400 gold less for a scaler like Kog'Maw in the mid lane. This is just unreal. The ability haste as well comes in really handy because your abilities are on actually long cooldowns, maybe apart from your ultimate, but still, this is just an amazing change for pretty much any mid lane of the build, Archangels, Kog'Maw included. So I think AP Kog in the mid lane deserves a mention, and let me know in the comments if any of you have actually played him. But beating Kog'Maw to number 7, this is probably a more consistent champion to pick, and this is Skarner, specifically in the top lane. Now, I understand that Skarner might be played as a jungler more than it is a top laner, but here's the thing, guys. With the new Glacial Augment, which is actually getting buffed for the scaling part of it, so the late game, this is really nice for Skarner because once you build your items like Anathemas, Chains, Frostfire, and then the new Fimbulwinter, you become a beast. But the only thing here is that Frostfire is getting nerfed, so it's not actually going to scale off your max HP, and the base damage is also down as well. This is for sure important to your damage output, but to be honest, I still don't think it's nearly enough to bring the Scorpion down from being one of the most low-key broken champs. So if there are any top lane Skarner mains out there, let me know in the comments what you actually think 11-24 is going to be like. I still think it's going to be good, and this is why you're on this countdown. Now, coming in at number 6, we have a jungler, and this is Udyr, specifically with the Lethal Tempo. Now, Lethal Tempo is getting nerfed, I know, 2% less attack speed for melee champions. It's not really that big of a deal, which is great. So for Udyr with the Lethal Tempo attack speed, remember, you're still getting 78% attack speed at max stats, and the range is staying the same. So you will be able to stick to enemy champions like you've always been able to, and deal almost as much damage. This might go down a little bit, but to be honest, nowhere near enough to stop Udyr from being a real force in the jungle and a very scary champion to run into. Now, starting off the top 5, guys, we're going to head to the bot lane, and you can play Ziggs in the mid lane as well, but in the bot lane, this is where Ziggs just shines more, and this is because of the Archangel staff buff. 400 gold cheaper for a champion that just relishes this item. This is unreal. Now, in the mid lane, I don't like Ziggs as much because the matchups there are a lot scarier, and in the bot lane, these AD carries you're probably going to see a lot, like Caitlyn, Ashe, Jinx. You know, these are really big range champions. Well, for Ziggs, it's great because they're also immobile, so landing your bombs and your damage, this should be a lot easier. Now, it's kind of a blow that support champions, hard engagers like Leon and Nautilus, will be nerfed a little bit because the Evan Shroud nerf. But still, what's important is the actual immobilization itself. So as long as the enemy champion, the AD carry, the support is stunned, you can land your skill shots. So it's probably important to think about your combination with your support in the bot lane, but the fact that Archangels are cheaper, this is great. But beating Ziggs to number 4, this is Akali. And the reason Akali has made it onto the underrated list is because Conqueror is getting buffed, so the stack is lasting a little bit longer, but also the adaptive damage based off your AP is higher in the late game. This is amazing for Akali and her scaling, and the actual stacking is going to be really important because as Akali, most of the time you're going to be trading with your Q and your passive and then going in your Shroud and trying to buy time. Well, the fact that the stacking is lasting 5 seconds just gives you way more opportunity and pretty much like 100% chance of actually getting to max stats of Conqueror during a 1v1. So I think this change is going to be great for Akali. Just try to pick her if you're against a short range melee champion because that's who you really do well against. But coming in at number 3, guys, beating Akali to the spot is Twitch. Now, the reason Twitch is in here, he might not be as strong as other AD carries, but here's the thing. I think he's really flying under the radar because we're going to see Caitlyn, Jinx, Ashe. These are mobile range AD carries picked a lot. Well, think about it. The new Lethal Tempo is actually really good for Twitch as well. You're getting more attack speed. Okay, you're getting less range, but you're getting access to that range quicker. Now, with your ultimate, you might not need it, but here's the thing, guys. It's not like it's a bad thing, and because you're getting more attack speed, your damage is just going to be insane. And for these mobile AD carries, they are not going to be able to escape your your ultimate. Now, the laning phase, of course, will still be hard, so you have to know what you're doing, and it's probably best to pick Twitch with a peeler like Lulu, Nami, Soraka, Sona, so you can really get the maximum value out of the wrap. And speaking of lethal tempo, coming in at number 2, we have Jax in the jungle. Not in the top lane, we all know how broken he is, but in the jungle, guys, I'm serious, lethal tempo. 13% attack speed isn't 15%, I understand that, but it's still plenty to be able to duel pretty much anyone in the game, and not many people know about it. They're so interested in playing Jax in the top lane because it just sounds so broken with Divine Sunder, etc., but in the jungle, it's played nowhere near enough, and to be honest, it's really not picked at all. So if you want to play a very scary 1v1 champion in the jungle and Jax is open, I would certainly consider locking him in. But the number 1 champion, guys, for 1124, or the most underrated, this is Akshan. Now, if you play him in the mid or top lane, don't really mind too much, but Akshan, just think about him as the new Lucian pick in the middle top lane. He has a shield in his passive. 1 auto attack is always going to be 2 auto attacks, and his roaming compared to an old Lucian in the mid lane is nuts because of his W. Also, his itemization, to be honest, is just a lot better, with shield bow, which still gives you incredible damage, but also the survivability you desperately need. And this is why this champion has around a 54% win rate, especially in higher reloads. So if you want to play an attack damage mid laner who revolves around shoving and roaming, Akshan is certainly the champion to lock in, and those are the 15 underrated champions, guys, for 1124. Let me know in the comments any thoughts you might have on the picks. Also, remember to like the video if you did enjoy it, and also make sure to check out the GameLeap website on your way out, linked in the description and comment section. It's the preseason, so no, it's not the actual season, but here's the thing, you can prepare for next season by accessing all of that challenger tier content we make for you on a daily basis. So get ready for it, get ready to achieve your goals by signing up to the website, and until tomorrow's daily preseason upload, this has been the